Things have gotten really bad here really quickly. I'm honestly really scared. I woke up this morning and the watching man was in the chair he was in last night, but he was watching me with a huge smile on his face. He left the room while I was getting dressed, and then when I walked out of the bedroom into the living room, he was standing in the door to the kitchen. I drew sort of a diagram to help you with the layout of the house. It's terrible art, but I think it helps. I forgot to draw the basement door, but it's in the kitchen. Anyway, I went out and into the garage where George left his car. He had told me I could use it for going around town. I got in, started it up, and was surprised to see the watching man physically open the car door and slide in to the seat next to me. I drove carefully down the driveway, and he admired the foliage on the sides. I asked him how he was, and he smiled at me. We drove into town and stopped in the grocery store's lot. We got out and walked into the shop for food. I picked up lots of vegetables, some spice, noodles, and some ground beef. I also got a bottle of Coca-Cola because it was on sale and I love Coca-Cola. I was loaded down with 5 bags of food when I went back out to the car. I loaded them in, and then we drove home in silence. Once back to the ranch, I unloaded the groceries and put them into a shelf in the kitchen before pouring myself some Coke. The watching man stood by the door to the basement and motioned for me to come to him. Sipping my Coke, I walked over and peered down into the darkness of the basement. It's around this area it gets disturbing. If you're at all fazed by descriptions of graphic violence, I'd stop reading here. He slowly descended into the darkness of the basement. I followed him down, slowly, because the stairs were not lit. Finally, I felt a firm stone floor under my feet. I turned around, and I saw the open door at the top of the stairs. It seemed miles away, and none of the light from the kitchen penetrated even an inch into the stairway. I was nervous, but I trusted in the watching man. He had been with me for so long, and I didn't think he'd hurt me now. That thought was tested when I watched the basement door slowly close, cutting off the only connection to the upstairs. The darkness was suffocating. It felt like a physical force pressing in against my eyes. I sensed more than saw the watching man leaning close towards me. Our faces were less than a centimeter apart. I swore it. Yet, when the light clicked on, I was by the stairs, and he was standing in front of something. He moved to the side, and what I saw made me drop the glass of Coke in my hand, raise my hands to my face, and scream. My boss sat, bound with ropes and duct tape, in an old wooden chair. Blood dripped from a cut above his eyebrow. He was unconscious, but the watching man woke him up. My boss raised his head and saw me. He immediately got angry, shaking in his chair and screaming. His screams were muffled by duct tape over his mouth. The watching man held a knife. He held it out to me, handle first. Unsure of what to do, I took it. I was confused, panicky even. I had no idea what I should do, how I should act. I ran up the stairs and tried the knob. It wouldn't even turn, even though the door had no lock. I turned back around. The watching man stood at the base of the stairs. He wasn't smiling, but he was holding his hand out to me. I walked slowly down the stairs and he frowned at me, as though he was disappointed. He stood behind my boss and slowly wrapped his large hands around his throat and neck. I could only watch, terrified, as the watching men slowly strangled my former boss to death. Finally, it was over, and my boss slumped forward in his chair. The watching man walked towards me. I climbed up the stairs backwards, and my back hit the door. He opened it with a wave of his hand, and I fell backwards onto the kitchen. "Get up," he said. It was the first words he had ever spoken to me. He seemed to roll his tongue in his mouth, as though considering his new ability. I got up quickly. "How about lunch?" he asked. I opened the cupboard I'd stored our food and pulled out a can of soup. On autopilot, I poured it into a pot and put the pot on the stove to cook. We sat down on either side of the table. "I suppose you want explanations," he said slowly, looking at me from the corner of his eye. "An explanation would be nice, yes," I managed to stutter. He smiled softly. "Ask, and you shall know." "Why can you talk now? You've been with me for all my life, but you've never said a word until now." He contemplated my question. "This was a place that meant a lot to me. It was my house, a long time ago. Being here made me stronger. The kill made me stronger still." "Who are you? Why do you follow me around? Why did you kill my boss?" "My name is Ruprecht. I follow you around because I like you. I see promise in you. I killed your boss because he hurt you. He fired you, remember? I would have let you do it, but you ran away." I got up and ladled soup into a bowl. I put it in front of him, and he picked up a spoon and began to eat it. "D," he said, using the childhood nickname my friends used. "I have been with you since the doctor tore you, kicking and screaming and naked, out of your mother's womb. You cannot expect me to just idly follow you around and let you make mistakes. You also cannot expect me to let those who hurt you go unpunished. This is very good, by the way. Thank you." My cell phone rang. The watching man, Ruprecht, looked at it, nodded, and said, "It's your mother. Pick it up." With shaking hands, I did as I was commanded.